Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Meridian Institute. For us, it's the first time we talk here at Quad 360, so it's a pleasure, and I would like also to thank Olivier from Kantar Public, as we work with Kantar Public as partner on online communities to talk about a great project, a multi-countries community project in public sector. And of course, Rob Wallace, okay, in charge of Krealinks business in UK and APAC. So we will talk about Europe.
Indeed.
Rob. So yeah. So but we invite you also to talk about Europe, as you are British. So yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Well, welcome. So yeah.
William has promised. William has made me promise that I mustn't say anything about Brexit. Okay. All right. So no Brexit today.
I'll take care of that.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it to the expert in Brussels to talk about Brexit later. So, as William says, thank you very much for letting us talk in front of you today, and appreciate Krealinks. We wanted to come with Kantar and talk about this really special project. So you may not know about Krealinks. We're quite hidden. We're quite behind the scenes. We started in 2009. We're 40 strong, our agency. We work across the world. We have offices in Paris, London, New York, San Francisco, and Hong Kong. Last year, we created over 2,600 communities. And we had over a couple of million respondents go through our communities worldwide. We're quite international. Our platform is quite international. We work in many languages. And we work with 150 countries so far we've run projects in. So we like to be behind very much the scenes. We like to ensure project success. We're very, very keen on delivering results, but our partners and integration, I think everything from the presentations we've heard so far is all about joining from the start. Collaboration is really important from the outset in order to be able to deliver a good sound project. So moving forward, our worlds are changing fast, so I'm handing over for a bit of trumpage.
So sorry, thank you. So as you know, the world is changing fast. So yeah, as you can see in 2008, the election of Barack Obama. So you leave the moment, okay, with people, and now you think about sharing your moments with people, because people are connected. So people are connected. Every people are connected today. So from young people to silver generation. So something very interesting also we have to add is a quote from Joël de Ronet. I don't know if you know Joël de Ronet, you know, a famous French scientific. Businesses must be in the same digital age as their clients. So it means a brand has to be at the same digital age as its client, but also our industry should be at the same digital age as our client. Our client are, of course, research director, marketing director, digital director inside the brand. If the rate of change on the outside exceeds the rate of change on the inside, the end is near. So you have to take care about that. And Internet continues to erase the basic rules of marketing, forcing brands into a direct relationship with their customers based on transparency. So of course, today with digital, we can be in touch directly with consumers, with customers in the company, what we call today, you know, the customer centricity. So every department to a company can be linked with their consumers directly, the marketing department, the product department, the innovation department, of course, the research department. So people, they connect, they engage, they share, and dialogue today. So they connect, they share, and dialogue on multi-device. So they share, of course, on PC, on tablet, on mobile phone, everywhere, through social media. So everybody share, right, Rob?
Absolutely.
And I think you share.
I'm sure there's a few people in this room that like sharing things on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I happen to admit I just shared a LinkedIn post about half an hour ago, just to let everybody know that obviously they can watch this live wherever they are in the world. And there happens to be a few people. So I'd like to say hello to those people. But I'm sure everybody in this room likes to share all sorts of things, whether it be from a personal environment or from a business environment. That, in terms of our respondents out there in the communities, they also like doing it. And generally you end up with, I'm sure you're aware, a lot more media than you plan on ending up with, especially with community projects. But that's a positive thing if you can turn it around.
Perfect. So next. So today, how do they connect? So, you know, we talked yesterday about, you know, people are the same in each country, but also we talked yesterday how people are different as well, because the culture is a filter of countries. But also, you know, we segment people. So we have the Gen Z generation, we have the millennials, we have the X generation, we have the silver generation, and they all share and discuss and engage every day on many and different types of application. So you can recognize, of course, for the Gen Z and some millennials as well, the Snapchat, Musical.ly, of course, Instagram Messenger, and of course, for the silver generation, they share as well with SMS, of course, SMS. They don't know sometimes WhatsApps, and of course, sometimes with email, and some of them with Vibers as well. So everybody's connected. Everybody share in asynchronous mode today because we have no time to answer. We have no time to answer to a phone call. We have no time. So we prefer to send a message or answer a message when we have the time to answer properly. So it's not because we are obliged to answer at this time that we will answer. We will answer when we want with a clear answer and clear view.
Indeed. And we always know that asynchronous interaction, that when the respondents are giving you that feedback, they're doing it at their own time, that the likelihood that the insight is likely to be that much greater and more meaning in terms of depth.
So of course, the world is changing fast. Also, consumer behavior changing really fast. And that's why you have no new actors in the industry. They disrupt the market. And why? Because they improve the customer experience by 1,000%, you know. So if we take the example of some big actor of the industry, so we'll see it after, but you know, it's a new revolution. So people now, the way they travel, the way they move, the way they buy, okay, has changed. So we have to integrate that. And big brands have to integrate that. So we have a question. Methods are still the same. Or do we have to change? Or is it a new way or a way in plus to do research, to add more insights through online communities? So thank you for the introduction, Maria, from Our Food on Communities, just before we talked. It was very interesting. So just to show you an example with Taxi G7 in France, a strong brand, you know, on taxi drivers. So Taxi G7, the CEO said we didn't improve the customer experience. So they knew that they have unsatisfied clients, you know, and they were disrupted because they did nothing with unsatisfied clients. Okay, and of course, I like this slide, you know, is what we call, you know, the hypothesis of the Red Queen in Alice in Wonderland. You know, she ran, but just to stay at the same place. So
how many of you remember that quote from Alice in Wonderland? Come on, hands up.
Yeah.
Come on, don't be shy.
Yeah.
No.
No. Okay. Okay.
See a video screen next time.
Yeah. So CEO of Accor said, I would love to participate in Airbnb projects. But a question, Accor, they do research. They invest a lot in research. They do prospective research. And they didn't see, okay, the arrival of Airbnb in the market. So today, okay, brands talking about digital. But digital, what for? Is to innovate, or is it to not to stay alive? So to stay at the same place. So you have to accelerate on digital, of course, but you have also to innovate and go and move on every day on your product and service development. So questions? How to engage, listen, and dialogue with your consumers at any time, any touch point, okay, with them. Not just a picture, not just a research in January, in March, at any time. How to put in place a customer-centric approach through community. We have different answers on that, but through communities. How to improve ID generation. So permanently, we have to reduce innovation cycle. So we have no time to develop between, you know, we have the idea, we test concept, we have a product. It's too long. So we have to reduce the chain of the innovation cycle. And we have to also involve consumers in co-creation, so and ID generation in a permanent way. And of course, the question: what will be your business tomorrow? So today you sell car, tomorrow maybe you will rent bicycle, or I don't know. So today, for example, Accor, okay, they have meeting room for events. Maybe tomorrow their business would be pure online platform to gather people into, you know, e-meeting room. I don't know. So maybe you have to think about also to disrupt your market. So being agile, of course, it's the world through online communities. So, of course, it's general presentation of online communities. We'll go through their citizen, but just to show you a preview of what communities can deliver.
Communities, asynchronous communities, can deliver all types of information, but most communities ideally should have some qualitative tools embedded to allow you to get the most from your respondents by conducting different types of exercises at different times. So in the project that we're going to talk about, we use the varied number of qualitative research tools, and you can see things like heat maps, collaging, audio, video tracking, tools that can stimulate engagement, but higher levels of engagement. When you're moving around images, you're asking for the respondent to give you something of his life, something that's important to them, something that they feel that's a value that you want to be able to interpret, understand, and report back to your client. And to do that, these tools, any type of media tools, qualitative environment, allow you to do that. And I can tell you that more video tools are coming on board because everybody's getting so much used to video. With all our millennials out there Snapchatting left, right and centre, you guarantee that your children or grandchildren, as with my children, don't look so much these days and engage on a much more social one-to-one level. They're much more engaging in a larger audience level. And with tools like this, they're more used to using. The engagement levels can be very high. Media can be very, very high in terms of what's delivered back to you.
Yeah, just to add something, of course, the platform, it's the platform we provide to the industry. So we provide the platform services and consulting to our clients. So our clients around the world are, of course, market research agencies, media agencies, innovation, communication agencies, but also digital agencies and brands. Sometimes, of course, we give them and we provide consulting to help them to use it themselves with some help or services around.
Okay, so briefly we're going to talk about the benefits of online communities, and we're going to rush through this really, really quickly because we'll have a good idea of what the benefits are likely to be. So different profiles. We're used to putting people into communities that we might break down their profile in terms of their age, their sex, what they do for a job, where they might live, some of their favourites, some of their hobbies. We can break those down. We can put those into communities so we can specifically question specific people so that you know that the answer is going to come from a group rather than come from a general. William?
Yep. Difficult profile. So difficult profile, it means that, when you have to discuss, so, okay, if we talk about focus group, it's 7, 8 people, it's very difficult to gather them, on some profession, B2B sector, or to talk about, health, politics, sex, on online communities, it's easier, okay, to have difficult profile, to have face-to-face, and of course, we can talk with much more people than 7 or 8. We have communities with 100 people or 1,000 people we can talk, and it's sometimes easier, okay, to gather them and to interact with them through online communities.
Really simply, interaction, familiarization. We spoke about it. Everybody's getting used to uploading images, uploading video, giving you anecdotes, collaging. It's familiarization again that leads to an amazing amount of media that's given to you by your respondents inside the community.
Yeah.
Qual mix.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're a bunch of qualitatives, qualities, and quant and qual is becoming so much more mixed. So tools are becoming embedded inside communities that allow for quant surveys. There are a number of different providers out there that we work with, Qualtrics being one of our strongest. But again, it's an open market. These things shouldn't be restricted. There should just be a toolkit allowing you to do what you need to do.
Yeah, communities, it's a platform where you can do many activities. So you can do surveys, you can do eye tracking, you can have heat map features, collage features. So it's features, and community, it's the platform that allows you to have all those features inside. And as Rob mentioned, we have a partnership with Qualtrics where we have developed an API with Qualtrics to embed survey into the community to have quant communities. Of course, we also partner with SurveyMonkey. We partner for video insight with VoxPopMe. So we have different partners, and Krealinks, is always building partnership with experts, and we gather all the expertise into the platform.
And I think we could just agree that these tools help us produce real-life context. I think that's how we wanted to finish that particular slide. High return on investment. I think we can value that in a number of different ways, but that was just a key pointer. So moving on from that,
Yeah.
some of the people that we've worked for, some of the people that we've worked with in the last a year or so, the list continues to grow. I'm sure you recognise some of those companies.
Yeah.
Citizens. So, William.
Yeah, what about citizens? So, of course, we are a consumer, but first of all, we are citizens. And, of course, engaging with citizens, you know, is easier when you have to engage with citizens across many countries on the platform to interact with them, as they have many things to tell about politics, about migration, about education, about different topics. So that's why, you know, you can see we have also built, you know, some communities in public sector, and we have more and more coming now. Okay, so as the Guardian said, you know, tapping into online communities can help councils engage with citizens. Here you have the presidential, okay, community we've built with in partnership with Kantar Public in France to follow and to discuss and engage with citizens in France during all the election period. So now, so it's a great platform. And of course, I will let now Olivier talk about our great project, You Engage.
Yep.
Thank you, Olivier.
Thank you. Thank you, William. So I'm jumping in now to talk about citizens. So consumers are also citizens, as you all know, and they have also very strong needs, and they want their voices to be heard. So this is a project that I'm happy to share with you today about engaging citizens and having those online communities help them bridge the gap between citizens and the political elite, which are sometimes and most often disconnected. So my name is Olivier Parnet. I'm from Kantar Public. I'm based in Brussels, and I'm going to share with you this case which is called EU Engage, where we used online communities to bridge this gap. Before we go into that, I just want to start with a short video that you might have seen, which was shot in 2015.
Close to 2% over the medium term, and will underpin the firm.
Dictatorship and ECB dictatorship and ECB dictatorship and ECB dictatorship.
Close to 2% over the medium term, and will underpin the firm.
Dictatorship and ECB dictatorship and ECB dictatorship and ECB dictatorship.
Okay, so I don't know if some of you remember this. This was, of course, Mario Draghi, who is the president of the ECB, who was attacked by a protester during a press conference, and she was screaming, "End the ECB dictatorship." So some of them might see this as political engagement. She has ideas, and that's her way of communicating this. Other people might see this as more an illustration of the huge gap and the huge anger of some citizens towards the political elite, towards the European troika that are pressuring the people. And of course, some other people might think that she just wanted to have her 15 minutes of fame. Whatever your interpretation of this image is, I think we can all agree that we are now in a very extreme and very interesting period, both in terms of political environment and in terms of the from a research point of view also. We are in this kind of a huge whirlwind, economical whirlwind, that started a few years ago, and now the European Union as a whole and the different member states, they're kind of floating in the air, or swirling in the air, and no one really knows where we're going to land, how we're going to land, and so on. This crisis started about 10 years ago with an economic crisis that was particularly strong, as you know, in the countries from the southern Europe, like Greece here. And people got in the street and showed very, very high protests against the EU for pressuring them and for building solutions that were completely not fit for them. And of course, this economic failure is one of the ingredients, one of the elements that triggered this huge crisis, confidence crisis. So you have the economic failure swirling everywhere. You have, of course, the migration crisis with a huge number of people coming in the borders with different reactions, like Frau Merkel saying more immigrants coming in, and of course other people's having different positions on that. You have over-regulations, perceived over-regulations by Brussels. You have the bureaucrats, which are there. They seem to be holding the fort more or less, but we're not really sure. So we have all these elements that are coming in that are building up towards this confidence crisis, and people feel that their voice is not heard enough, and they really demand that their voice is heard. And of course that led to the Brexit, where majority of the UK citizens, your fellow citizens, Rob, decided that they wanted to exit the EU. And I don't want to be alarmist. I don't want to cut your enthusiasm, because we're all very enthusiastic. So it gets better. Bear with me a few more moments. It gets better. So the question, of course, is there going to be a contagion? Will other countries decide that they want to leave the EU? Of course, it's a very important risk, because people, most citizens, they are not happy with the European Union as an institution as today. So they're discontent with the way the institutions are working, with the fact that they perceive over-regulation, bureaucracy, and of course the fact that the powers at national level are sometimes taken away by this EU kind of super governance. But the good news, and this is where it gets good, is that we can see also that this crisis has sparked simultaneously a wave of engagement towards the European project. So not the institutions as they are now, but more the project, the idea that we are not only countries, but we are forming a group of countries which is higher than us and larger than us. So there's hope. In any case, this crisis has created a distance, has created a gap between citizens and the political elite, whether it's at national level or at EU level. There is this gap that seems to be really important, and people want their voice to be heard. They're asking, and we see this in Eurobarometer data, but we see also this in all the focus groups that we carry out throughout the EU. We see that citizens want their voices to be heard. They want the institutions to be closer to them. So all these elements of context are really important to understand the project, the EU Engage project. This project is part of the Horizon 2020 program. I don't know if some of you have heard of this. So it's a big program from the EU, which is aimed at financing innovation research projects in order to create jobs and to create growth in the EU. And there are many different projects, and EU Engage is one of this project that is aimed at creating engagement and bridging the gap between citizens and the elites. It's a consortium of about 10 partners from the academic world and from the research world, and it's led by the University of Siena. And this is a 3-year research program that has many components, and I will tell you a bit more about the different components in a minute. So this is really the context. And Kantar Public is one of these partners. Maybe just a quick few words on what we do. So Kantar Public is part of the Kantar Group, which also holds brands like TNS, like Millward Brown. I know that we have colleagues from Millward Brown in the room as well. And Kantar Public focuses really on helping the public sector at large in helping them with drafting policy, public communication, in many different aspects. And our clients are, so in Kantar Public in Brussels, we really focus on multi-country projects. For clients like the European Commission, European Parliament, we're in charge of running the Eurobarometer, so the public opinion tool used by the Commission and the Parliament, and also clients like the World Bank, the ECB, and different international agencies. and we do quant, qual, social media insights. So it's really different expertise, and these different expertise were really important to be part of this EU Engage project. Very quickly, what is the project? The aim of this project is very boldly, I would say, to fill this gap that we have been seeing in the different elements before, this gap between citizens and political leaders on the one hand, and on mobilization at the national level with this supranational governance from the EU. So trying to bring those two together, those two elements that sometimes are a bit extreme, we try to build them together. How did we do that? As I said, it's a 3-year program. So we have a 3-year project. We have different components, different pieces of the Lego coming together to do this. And it really aims to be very experimental and very bringing really the interactions at the heart of citizens and politicians. So really creating these interactions and understanding to what extent these interactions have an impact on perceptions and in creating engagement. More specifically, the way we used online communities in this framework is that we had this kind of 3-step procedure. We had last year an online, so a quantitative survey in 10 member states. In each country, we had a bit more than 2,000 respondents taking part in this survey, where we asked them for their perceptions about the image of the EU, their perceptions on 3 main topics, which were the economic crisis, the migration crisis, and the security crisis. We tested some possible solutions, their agreement with what the political parties are offering, etc. Then out of these respondents, we recruited participants who would want to be part of these deliberative online communities, which took place in October, a few months later. And then we will have, in a few months, a second wave of the online surveys. So all respondents are tracked across all these different steps so that we can measure and we can evaluate the impact of these different steps in their perceptions. I could talk for hours about this project, but I don't want to bore you, so I said I'll focus on 2 challenges. The first challenge that we wanted is really to use these online communities to bring deliberation. And deliberation meaning that we wanted to have truly interactive components in the research to measure to what extent these interactions bring engagement to citizens. The first thing that we did is that we, in one of the communities in each country, so we had 3 communities in each country, each with about 15 to 20 participants, and each community lasted around 11 days. In each community, so in the first community in each country, we provided them with what we call briefing material. So the first thing we wanted to test is to what extent the level of knowledge of citizens on a certain topic has an impact on their perceptions, on their feelings, on their beliefs. So we gave them videos, infographics, elements which were very factual and very easy to understand to provide them with a certain level of knowledge on economic crisis, security crisis, migration crisis. In the second group, we focused more on the interaction with politicians. How did we do that? We recruited in all countries national politicians who actually delivered a message, a recorded message by video, expressing their point of view on these different topics. And this was addressed to the members of the communities. Then the participants had the chance to view these videos and to exchange first amongst themselves, so in the community, and then to address questions or comments to these politicians, who then received those comments and questions and could answer back to the citizens. And that was done twice. So we had this interaction, kind of a sequential interaction, bringing together citizens and politicians. And then in the third group, we had both components, so both the briefing material and the interaction with politicians. The second main challenge is that we had to coordinate 30 communities in 10 countries at the same time. So we have, as I said, the first with briefing, the politicians, and the one where they had both. In terms of coordination, we were lucky that the platform actually is pretty efficient in duplicating things. So we didn't have to do things from scratch 30 times, luckily. I would have gray hair. But so we had really, there was some coordination to do, but that was pretty good. I think the main challenge was more in terms of the moderation, because we needed to have moderators, of course, coming from all countries and speaking the same language. And then at first we thought that we would go for a traditional approach, recruiting moderators in each country. But we found out quite quickly that first to have to moderate 3 communities, we would need more than 1 moderator in each country. And at the same time, we saw also that it would be too rigid. This structure would be too rigid to have people in their own countries. So the way we decided to do it is to bring people together. So to have one centralized hub located in Brussels and have all the moderators located at the same place. As you probably know, I hope you know, that Belgium and Brussels, more importantly, we have very good beer that you all know. We have very good chocolate. And also one of the main assets is that we have a very international community because of the European institutions. We have people from all different kinds of countries living in Brussels and working in Brussels. So we took benefit from this, and we recruited 20 moderators who had some kind of political or social background, and we put them together in one room, in one centralized hub, and all of them could moderate at the same time. And the great thing is that all the good things that came out of one community was shared immediately amongst the other communities, and at the same time it offered the possibility, if there was a problem in one of the community, to be very agile and to be very interactive. So that was really a key learning for us, is for multi-country projects, it's really important to have a centralized moderation hub. I'll go quickly because I see that time is running fast. Just 2 things that I really enjoyed. I should have started with that. I'm very humbled today because I'm clearly not an expert in online communities. This is the biggest project that we have done so far, but my key learnings and key positive things that I heard, that I learned from this, is that really having online communities brings a lot of engaged people, and probably much more engaged than in focus groups. And also another thing is that they truly express their minds, more so probably than in focus groups. Here we were tackling kind of difficult subjects, like for example on immigration, and we know that it's a sensitive topic, and we had people really speaking out their minds because you are maybe hidden a bit behind your computer, so you can express yourself more freely. And you had some very nice people saying, for example, those tree huggers and lefty thinkers, they should take all these immigrants in their own homes. And probably this is not something that people would have said in a focus group room.
And it probably didn't come from a Brit, right?
Last thing, and I'll finish with this, is one of the beauties of online communities also is that your participants are actually co-creators. So at the end of the 11 days, we actually had output, directly accessible output, in addition, of course, of all the analysis that we are doing now. But we end up with a final product. In this case, at the end of the community, after all the discussions, the debates, the discussions with the citizens, the political leaders, and so on, we asked participants to kind of sum up all the discussions into policy proposals. So after discussing, for example, this is about economy, what would you recommend? What would you say to political leaders to actually put forward solutions? And we ended up with a list of 15, 20 policy proposals, which were then tested quantitatively with a larger number of respondents. And I see that I'm being pushed out. So do I have time for one more slide? Yes? Okay, all right. Just one final thing, more maybe to bring this closer to maybe what people are in this room are working on, because this works with citizens, but of course works very well with consumers as well. And one application is, for example, to optimize communication campaigns. So on the one hand, you can have people who are either buying your brand or who are pro-EU. You can use them as supporters, and you can use them as co-creators and tap in their collective wisdom to improve your communication material, to find ideas, to fine-tune ideas. And on the other hand, you can also use your skepticals. So you can have, for example, people who purchase your competitor's brand or people who are anti-EU, and you can use them as sounding boards to test either your campaign or a policy, and you will identify very clearly what are the flaws, what are the possible elements that should be changed before you actually launch your campaign.